I guess that's the thing about successful summits. So many people, conversation, so little time. Okay, let's restart. Welcoming to the stage now, the leader of the building room, David Ivey of HOK. David, take us through what the building room has been up to, please. You may have to shout.
Good morning. Well, everybody's still out there. That's great. Thanks. I wanted to start with a little announcement. I don't know where Nick is. Maybe he's not in the room, but Jan Anders from the building room has gracefully volunteered to be the representative for the sustainability group. So Jan Anders and Nick, you guys should talk afterwards. They're going to meet, I hear, every 2 weeks. That's pretty great. Okay, so what went on in the building room this week? Just a few things. I thought it was really great that we have now 9 rooms and we did 3 sessions each, which for me was kind of important because it meant for the first time since Tokyo, which is when I started with buildingSMART, I was able to actually go to other sessions and watch some other stuff in other rooms instead of being in all the building room meetings all week. So I think the format was great. I think it was a huge success. So I'm really happy with that. Our first session, we had what I'm calling our very last work session for the charter and the roadmap. We've been working on those really, I guess now for 5 years, and we're kind of putting that to rest. But one of the nice things about that particular session was that we had a good group of people in there and we got a lot of feedback. We got good conversation going, both live in the room and online. We just kind of went through our documents and really kind of parsed out the wording and wanted to make it very building room specific, and as best we could make it short and sweet and succinct so that people who come and read it and look at those documents sort of get a sense of where they are and what we mean by being the building room, and wherever possible, not kind of repeating a lot of information that you can find elsewhere and providing more links and making the document just smaller and more concise. So that was Rob and Mirbek and I in the first session that day. Like I said, well attended, great participation, and I'm really excited too about, I just sort of found out about a quarterly call that goes on. I guess some of the rooms have been doing it for a couple of years. Sort of a town hall, sort of an open house that brings in more people from the buildingSMART community that aren't just steering committee members. So, we meet plenty during the month. We meet for projects. We meet for steering, just like everything. But a lot of people wanted to be on that call, wanted to be able to have input into the room, come up with ideas, present their ideas for projects. So I think it's a very good thing, in addition to like the forum, but more building room specific. So we're excited about that. I won't spend a ton of time going through every project, but I think the gist here is that all of our projects are kind of moving forward in meaningful ways. Some have funding, some have approval, but they're all kind of going through the BSI process in a timely and meaningful way. So that is good. The last session that we had sort of started in my mind in London. It was really the first time that I was exposed to IDS as a specification. And so I was struggling a little bit when we were talking about it. Leon was talking about it in London, and I decided to make a little bit of a sketch to kind of help put it in my mind as how it works from an end user standpoint. I mean, I work for a large architecture firm, and my job is making sure that the people who are actually doing stuff every day are the ones that know how to use these processes and move things through them. And they're less technical, less about the IFC schema and all the nitty-gritty stuff. And so we had plenty of master classes that went into great detail. Menos was a great class that I was in, luckily. And simple is good too. And so I wanted to keep my class as simple as possible and really just talk from a very high level about how IDS works in a normal workflow in, say, an architectural office. And then we had a demo that Mirbek did that was not quite as simple, but very clear and very good. So demos really help, I think. Anything that you have that's showing people how the tools work instead of explaining how they work is great. All the other stuff is great. And the audience support, it was great to have Artur in our class, who's not a PhD in BSDD yet, but working on it. But he was there to be able to answer questions about BSDD and the workflow, and he even gave me some good language changes to my diagram, and that was good. So a few takeaways and things that I'm kind of looking forward to. I think the maturity of the summits is amazing. Like I said, I started in Tokyo, and we were up here with just the pieces of paper, flipboard, drawing on stuff, and now we're recording everything, and we've got people in virtually and live, and so it's really become, I think this is one of the best summits we've had so far for several reasons. One is I'm able to attend some other classes, but two, we just really seem to have gotten back on the horse in terms of getting past the pandemic and really having a meaningful summit with a lot of people here. And it's great to be, in the room talking to people and seeing people. 3 sessions, like I said, more time. I think it's a great format. Really excited about the growth of the building room. We're in the process of elections, so we'll have some new blood on the committee here in a few weeks. And we had more people running for a spot on the committee than we ever have had, and I think that is a good thing. There's a lot of chapters, and everybody's got some interest in being a part of moving things forward, so that's really good. The master classes I thought were great. They were probably the most well-attended sessions that I'd seen at any buildingSMART conference at all, or maybe it was just because it was in such a small room. They were so exciting, even the fire department decided to come. Open some windows, kick some people out, move people around. The other thing that I thought was really great is that for the first time, at least since I've been coming, we had a U.S. chapter meeting. We actually had enough people to fill a whole table in the dining hall. So instead of it just being, myself and Greg and Luke Faulkner and Ian and a few other people, and of course, Patrick, you're always here. So it was nice to have this group. We've got sort of a, it's been around for a couple of years, but it's still kind of a fledgling chapter for the U.S., and Calvin Cam was there and kind of heading us and trying to set up ways for BSI and BSA to collaborate a little more, get more involvement from the BSA chapter in BSI. So I'm sort of foreign to BSA just because I've been doing this before we had a chapter. So those are the things that were kind of my big takeaways, and just looking forward to a few things, and obviously looking forward to Oslo in the fall. So thank you.
Stay here. The building room is having an election for their steering committee at the moment. We haven't got the results in yet, but we will do shortly. Just in case, we just need to the building room steering committee, who have served and supported the work over the last few years. A few from Churn, and we may get some new members in after the election results are made next summit in Oslo. So a big round of applause to everybody in the building room steering committee, please. Thank you, David. Introducing Ken Endo, who's going to talk to us about the construction room.
Hi, I'm Ken, leader of the construction room. And today, I want to wrap up what we've done last 2 days. But I'm sorry, my boss, Mr. Yajima, had some sick at the gala dinner, so that I missed some sessions. So I hear from the member and then made this presentation. And then now he will arrive soon. This noon is arriving time at Tokyo safely. I got the email from the flight, his flights. So he's okay. So thank you very much for sending me some email and then encourage me. So, and then I'm very appreciate the Italian chapter who called ambulance and then take care of all the things, hospital, all that thing. Thank you very much. So our session was all those 5. And then the first day, Konstantinos Kesodos from Strabag, UCM and BSED. And he also hosts the third one, the closed meeting, and then of UCM. And the others, the CO2, the Bexel, the Verico, and Mileta, and Alex, 3 of them presented about the 4D and 5D. And last session, but not least, of course, is from Mr. Yachi from Shinryo of Japan. And he presented use cases of IFC spatial zone. And that's one, the Rory Doak from Lorenzo made presentation about material passport. All those we've done here in Rome. So I just show you how we did. And then lower layers, there are the contents. And then upper layer, it means it includes all the things, is our vision. So we been working for construction room for around 5 years. And then the gathering and then sharing many the use cases. But we want to try to make them the structured data and then share. So it means that we are committed to use case management at this moment. So firstly, I would like to talk one by one from bottom side. And then last one, I will show them our vision to create the use case management system. The first one is 4D, 5D. We are continuing discussing these things, and then the Bexel is leading this area. And then they have the very cutting edge technology and has all those the software named Bexel Manager, as you can see at the front and the front demo booth. And it's thanks for the IOC4, 4D, 5D we can do, but there is still lack of use case is my feeling. So next one, it's from Mr. Yachi, and he's the expert of MEP area. And he started to think about use case of spatial zone around 5 years ago when he attended the Tokyo Summit. And then he proposed to create the many use cases in MEP area. So all those two are the example. One is heating the system, by using the spatial zone. So we can partially warm up the area. So those kind of space control and reservation is his main idea. The right-hand side is piping, elevation, and installation. And as you know well, the pipe is divided. That there's many parts, and then will bring it up to the building and the fix. So how to manage all those logistics is very important. So the spatial zone is work for this. And next one is from Rory Doak from Lorenzo. He is in charge of material passport and sustainability. And he's thinking about the combining all those things to 4D and 5D technologies. Because material is kind of bill of quantity. And then we are very nervous about the environment and sustainability. So how to calculate all those CO2 is another question. So combining those with the same GUID, and then adding some 4D and 5D idea is his challenge. So all those British standards and then SEN, and then our team will collaborate with to create the very fundamental and background idea for this area. So all those three are the use cases. And then what we want to do is combining all those and then share it as some kind of structured data. So this is the slide from last summit meeting in Montreal. And there's the room's name, and then the middle, there's the construction room. And it is my thinking, but the construction room will be the center to, or the hub to combine the users, it means the construction managers and BIM users, and then spread upper side area, it means the technical area of IFC, and then some applied area of IFC, and then combine to the users and users community. So from here, this is the idea of use case management. And then the Konstantinos is in charge of this area. And then they create this kind of structured model, how we should do. So left-hand side is the process and what level of detail information is needed in each process. It's showed left-hand side. And the right-hand side is the combination of systems. Upper side, there's the BES, UCM systems. And then it will be connected to BSDD. And then all the systems are combined with CDE, right-hand side bar, vertical bar. So this is the fundamental structure of the UCM and what we are thinking. But still, we have many problem issues to realize this UCM. Here's his proposal. 5 proposals he made. And then we think about all those issues one by one in the very closed session. So firstly, we want to clarify what's the purpose of the UCM and what's the targeted user, the process, what tools we need. So one by one, we have very fundamental discussion, a very intensive discussion we've done, like this. And the level of detail and geometry information by purpose, by user, by process. All those should be defined very clearly, and then we can create UCM system. So if you want to join this kind of discussion, please call to the CL committee member, or those 6 are working for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we're pleased that Yajima-san is feeling better. The construction room, if there are any members in the room here today that have a specific interest in being part of the construction room steering committee, there is a space on the committee. So come and talk to us, come and talk to me or Ken, and we can talk about that. It may be you've got some particular use case requirements you'd like to get into the plan and get enacted. And I'm inviting Michel Bohren to the stage. Where are you, Michel? Oh, there you are. We'll talk to us about the product room.
Thank you very much. So now I have an issue that I only have 2 hands, and I should check quickly that I don't miss anybody I want to thank for the sessions that we had today. But that's the reason that I took a note. So because I'm standing here now and make a summary of this year's session, and on the other hand, there are a lot of people behind it that make it happen. So all my fellows out of the Product Room Steering Committee. So many thanks to Radboud and Peter that managed single sessions here in Rome. Then we had Frederick and Espen that hold sessions in joint rooms or in joint sessions. Many thanks to them. We had then Magda that supported us in having an own presentation representing a manufacturer. We had HC, Hans Wally, and Justas that supported in the background in preparing the summit, but also in managing here on site. And we had Robert that unfortunately couldn't be here, but he was very active in preparing also the summit. Many thanks to all my colleagues in the steering committee. It wouldn't have happened without them. So what did we here in Rome? So once again, we invited industry experts to tell us what is going on, what they need, what they request from an organization like buildingSMART. I decided to work with a few quotes from their presentations and not make really large summaries. So one asset owner here with Rijkswaterstaat, I hope I pronounce it right. So a asset owner, a Dutch public asset owner. We had Schindler here, you most probably know. So building elevators and escalators and so on. A Swiss-based company. We had Knauf Insulation, a German-based company represented by Magda. And we had Tieme here, Italian-based company providing sanitary equipment. So quite a broad range. What was interesting, by the way, it's very hard to bring there here. They do not yet recognize us as a valuable partner for them. The same is with other stakeholders like out of logistics, engineering, procurement, and so on, that should be part of a summit like this and that should work together with us. You see it in one of the other quotes. You have one quote, for example, from the asset owner. We have to connect internal and external data. It's an important one. So it's not only about the model. It's not sufficient. Or another quote also from the asset owner, different requirements in numerous projects require different software solutions with different data structures. There will never be a fit. So also this, it doesn't end at the borders of a model. Then we had also other quotes that show a little bit that it goes into logistics. So we manage the supply chain to the construction side for optimal delivery scenarios and best time slots. So that goes to logistics. Manufacturers will bridge between architects, engineers, and contractors. So it's engineering that has to be involved. So you see, if you talk about products or in the product room, it's far more than modeling. It's far more than IFC. So I think that is a very important conclusion, and that is something we work on. Another one, and that was something that made me a little bit proud because we started only not far back with preparing our roadmap, and then there was the quote: "The product room roadmap covers exactly our pain points." That was a manufacturer. So great. It seems not too bad to work with it as long. So we had another session, very important one. We must talk about governance. It is also important to talk to the players that are not in this, let's say, a core group around buildingSMART. That was important that it's not about values, really not. It's about the content. Let's try this one. It's about setting really a reliable and valid frame. So it's about structure, classifications, about guidelines, processes, and about controlling. It is a lot about responsibility. Manufacturers tell us they can't trust in something that is moving around. They will start to invest if it's clear. So they need to have clarification of what is going on, what is requested, what is required. Governance is about trust, about reliability, about truth. That is very important with other stakeholders. They cannot accept contradictions, no duplicates, no ambiguities in data. It's important for them. They ask questions like, is it actual? Is the data valid? Is it correct? Is it compliant? So it's about quality assurance, consultations, releases, versions. I give you an example. It's a bad example because it's simple. You will understand. E-team IFC mapping in buildingSMART data dictionary. Who guarantees the compliance of both classifications? Who owns the mapping? Who guarantees the correctness of the mapping? Who guarantees the compliance of the mapping? And who manages the life cycle of the mapping, especially versions? That's an easy one, because IFC, by buildingSMART, E-Team, global, respectable, well-known organizations, perfect. Hello? Oh, well, okay. So E-Team has a governance. It's globally. It's an organization behind it. It's trust behind it that works quite well. So think about an organization that is not that well known and not that well organized. So that's a very important part. And now I have to make a little breakout. We find the memorandum of understanding between ICIS and buildingSMART. That has nothing to do with the product room steering committee, in a way. But interesting is that representatives from ICIS are all sitting in the product room steering committee and not in another steering committee. So probably there is something valid behind it. So we have on the one side OpenBIM and the network of buildingSMART, the global network. On the other hand, from ICIS, we have a lot of know-how in specification, classification, in governance, in business models around specification and classification, in local regulations, and also a large network. Why is this so important? The specification part. We always forget about the specification. If you talk about material or product passports, you will never specify a brick in the wall. You will specify the wall. The specification of the wall will give you guidance what brick you will have to evaluate afterwards. And the model, the digital twin, will not be the contract between the owner and the contractor or the architect. The contract is the specification. And the specification will define what products and material you will choose afterwards. And it's very important. So how do we bring specification to a model? How do we link specification with product data and product information? How to evaluate products and material out of specification information? So that is a specialization from the ICIS members. And I think that's a great opportunity, and I'm very proud and very happy that we signed this memorandum of understanding to work specifically on the specification part, bring this know-how in, and then hopefully also on the governance part, where is a lot of experience. So that's the roadmap we are working on. Interesting in their moments. So for the next steps is what we want to do in 2023. And these are the next steps. So it's the question definition of a product. So also a very important one for the stakeholders around design and build. So we want to evaluate all other sources that guide to this direction, then edit an activity proposal, and then hopefully provide a project with a technical report. Then we want to work on the governance of data. Also preparing there an activity proposal and constitution then of a working group. And it's important because that should be also an advice or request then to buildingSMART International, how this could be set up. And then we will start a project for IFC for products, edit the project plan, call for sponsorship, and then really execute this project to deliver industry insights and then also user guidelines, principles, and how to use it. Later on, most probably then also pilots or tests that it works. So that is also part where we have to open and to invite manufacturers, logistics organizations, engineering companies, and so on, to bring all these know-how and all these requirements in and build on these next steps. So a lot to do. Happy to be here, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michel. I'm delighted, actually. Nothing coming through? I'm just delighted that since the pandemic has finished, we're able to get back together again. I don't think it's the microphones. I think it's. I think maybe just Michel and I have dulcet film star tones. I don't know what's going on. We are able to get face to face, and we've had several workshops, and the manufacturers have been coming along, and as you can see, they're starting to contribute their needs and their requirements. And hopefully, with the nature of the way we've done this summit, people in the product room will be able to go to the airport room and see how they're doing the project rather, to amend the IFC through putting their specific entities into the BSDD, because the product room is going to be wanting to do that, and the building room is going to be wanting to do that. So we're getting a lot of shared learning. And as for the governance of the BSDD, yes, that's all part of the continuous improvement program at buildingSMART, and maybe one of my colleagues will address that later. Next up is Bertrand from the electrical room. Bertrand Lac.
Thank you. I have to take it. Thanks. Good morning, everybody. So I'm representing the electrical room. That's strange. So for most of us, this was our first. So we have spent a lot of time walking around in the different rooms. So you probably saw several of these people for the first time. So maybe for a second time, guys, if you want to stand up, because we have people from ePlan who joined recently, Siemens, Schneider, so the electrical trade. And as I said, it was essentially a learning session. So the takeout, thank you. So for us, lesson learned 1, never get a time slot at the same time as the BSDD. Learn 2, we can still believe, because I saw on the WhatsApp that when they began, the BSDD just had 5 people in their session. We had 7. So we can still believe in us. Now, question for you. What is that? That's a building without electrical power, or a railway station without electric power. And the second question is, how sustainable can we be without electrical power? That's the solution, but not one. So when we talk about electrical scope, what we want to emphasize is we will first focus on all the electrical stuff that is fitted inside or attached to the building. What is a production of photovoltaic to the socket, all that goes through the building and inside the building. Need to change or? Yeah.
I try that, yeah. So, what we presented in our session was the first thing that we did so far in our different private session. Richard said that we had 2 workshops already, one in Zug and one in Paris, and we started to build the process map, to map the players and so on. Our ambition is that it's a twofold ambition. First, we need to bring more electrical people in the open beam domain, because we are not so many electrical guys in this room. And the second thing is that we must bring more electrical concepts, properties, entities inside the IFC and the BSDD. So that's a double-fold approach, and it started by mapping where and how the electrical trades interact with the rest of the other trades on the building, and to emphasize that we are everywhere. What we presented also is that we started a full list of use case, and we have a to-do list of use case that is really, really big. From an electrical contractor needing something for from the architect at the beginning, or to what, as a panel builder, I should give back for digital twin. So we have a full list of use case that we are working on. But now the point is, as a conclusion, is that we need you. We need to have more inputs from other rooms, more end user point of view, because in our room today we are still mainly, not to say only, electrical guys, but then we would like to have airports, railway, or other rooms coming to us saying, this is where we have some pain points regarding coordination on the electrical staff, or what this is what we expect to have as use case, because otherwise we will probably end up having, we are in Rome, and I would like to avoid what I would call the spaghetti syndrome. You know what is a spaghetti syndrome? If you have a big plate of spaghetti and you push the spaghetti, you end up choking. And that's what will happen to us if we work on the use case we have. We will have plenty of use case, but if you don't want to choke with a spaghetti plate, just suck it from the usage. And so we need to bring the usage part and take a priority from that. So that's why that's a wish for the next summit, is to have much more crossed session so that we can really start having more exchange and get some more of you on board. Luckily, in these 2 days, we could get 2 new members candidating to join our rooms, which is already a success. That's about it. Thank you.
Making his way to the stage is Greg Schleusner, who's going to talk to us about the technical room. Greg, I'm afraid you're probably going to have to stoop a little.
Oh, I'll hold it like this. That works. Okay, so no slides. We successfully did not use PowerPoint besides the intro slides in our room, so I'm going to continue with no slides. So we actually we had two main efforts that we wanted to come to Rome to look at. One is around IFC Delta and around IFC 5. So for those that don't quite understand, there's a technical services group within buildingSMART that Léon van Berlo and others do a lot of the main work. And the technical room historically comes out of that history, but doesn't always have projects. We make sure technical things get reviewed, and then sometimes we have our own projects. And for some time, we've not necessarily had working projects. We have been working on what IFC 5 looks like since 2016. We started to have meetings hosted in New York. We had IFC JSON work. We had IFC product work. But IFC 5 is one of these things that seems like you shouldn't start till you're ready to start it. And it seems like that time is now, because we've had very good efforts around that. So the IFC Delta work is very easy to understand. You don't have to know anything about the technical aspects of IFC. It's just the idea that today you have to export full data sets. I should be able to send partial data sets and people get updates. Very simple. It's a relatively straightforward thing, and this applies to IFC 4 and 5. Really, the use case is speeding up data export and import. So if you have to use IFC data on either side, it's meant to make that easier for you, full stop. And how that works into a CDE environment where the data changes. So that's that project. We'll be moving that forward. It'll probably start as an implementer's agreement, and then that will proceed and start to work its way into the software tools that can export IFC. And then the IFC 5 session, we've been working quite some time, as I mentioned, not working as in starting to write down what it looks like, but trying to figure out what it needs to do is the most important stuff. So actually, the last session we had yesterday was the most important one. We validated all the user requests, all the software development requests of, okay, what does IFC 5 need to solve? And then we illustrated the prototype data structures that we'd be looking at. Now the details are far from final, but it certainly looks a lot different than IFC has looked in the past. But it'll certainly try to do all the things that people have been asking for modernization. You know, web access, distributed, connect to GIS and BIM in the same processes. All these things are very important things. I won't bore you with all the technical details, but that's really the scope, and our next steps on both of these are documentation on the Delta side, and then the IFC 5 perspective, we'll definitely be forming work groups and coming up with a project plan and a roadmap so everybody can start to sort of latch on to when it's coming. Schedule is still a ways away, but that's the plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Guess who's up next? Nick, come and talk to us about the regulatory room.
Clicker. Okay, right, you've seen the PowerPoint. Yeah, we had the most activities that we've ever had. We've had really good support and speakers. In the background, you can see that we have got a roadmap. Our first meeting was to review and present that roadmap and to see other people's interests. Information Requirements Project, which is gathering the nitty-gritty of what we expect in our model. If we're going to have automated code compliance, if we're going to have assisted code compliance. For first time, we had a joint regulatory and law at BIM dinner, which was packed out, but that was probably because the room was very small. And we had a presentation about the IFC mandate in Finland, which is probably one of the headline bits of news from this summit or just before. And our final session was indeed on developing guidance on open BIM. So we have been busy. Let's put it another way. We had the most regulatory room sessions ever. We had the best ever regulatory room dinner. We had the largest attendances ever. I have a little note of our attendances going back a number of years. And I can do curve fitting. And by my current estimates, by the time we get to Norway, we're going to need a small football stadium. We had the most interest in requirements ever. Although our social regulation or regulatory, I think client requirements, engineering requirements, technical requirements are in our scope, and people are starting to see the need to balance supply-side solutions with demand-side criteria. And I'm going to say we have got the best steering committee. Okay, sorry. So yes, we have the best ever steering committee. I'd like to pick out 3 members who've been particularly outstanding. First of all, who was inducted to being a fellow after being the longest serving surviving member of the Regulatory Steering Committee. And persistence alone, he earned it. I also want to thank Franco Coyne and Tommy Hidden for leading our projects and being real stars when it comes to actually organizing us and getting the work done, along with Sheila Karalam, who has a job worse than herding sheep, and she does it brilliantly. You've heard about this, I got to get this right, otherwise the Sustainability Strategic Group. And it's got to be our best idea for collaboration ever. And I'm really pleased that it's a gift from the regulatory room to everyone else in the room structures of buildingSMART. Finally, I have to say, it's the best time I've ever had in Rome, apart from all the other times I've been here. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. And thank you to all of our rooms who have now concluded their updates. And we'll welcome Leon to come and talk to us. Did you want the hat?
Yeah, no, I don't have slides, so I'm happy to have a clicker. But every other director has held the microphone during the closing ceremony. So Dan asked me if I also wanted to say something, and it was with a healthy fear in his voice and eyes that he asked me. I wondered if there indeed was something that I could still contribute, if I could still add value during a closing ceremony. And I don't know, because there was so much value already added. All rooms say that it was ever. There was people sitting in the room, be on the floor. You know you're doing something really well when the fire marshals are going to get nervous because the room is too full. So that's really, the master classes were wonderful. We saw people explaining in practice every day, but they never heard about it. So we're definitely doing something really well on adding value. We definitely moved from that they need to use standards towards showing the industry and having the industry show us how they create value with our standards. I think the nicest thing I had this week was Rolf from Germany that made a comment that we should change the summit from Standards and Solutions Summit to Value Adding Summit. And I think that was the best part of my week, at least. But when we talk about adding value, I think there's a lot of great sessions. And I'm indeed also surprised about a couple of sessions that I wasn't involved in, that I'm really sad that I missed. But the session that was, for me, if we had a best value adding session award, I think it would go to the railway game. They did railway, they created rails during their game, but it could have been a road, could have been a building, could have been a bridge. It didn't really matter. What it showed is that the software tools are ready for IFC 4.3, the users are ready. It was the combination of where it all came together with IFC, IDS, even BSDD was in there for some teams. So I think it is time to announce the actual winners of the rail game, because all of the teams that participated, it was very close. So the White Tigers obviously got the awards. I'm going to give the real winners it is the community, the end users, the industry that is actually going to benefit from the added value of that rail game. I know that Kenya already had a lot of applause, but there's more people. There's Ivandro, there's Zero, so please give them a really good applause because they made you the winners of the game.
The Value Adding Summit. Yes, completely agree. It's now all-encompassing for the whole of the UK BSI. I'm looking for Lorenzo. Lorenzo, you going to say a few words just before we hand over to Clive?
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, so I think we are really near to the end of this wonderful summit. I actually would like to share some of my feeling, if I can. I think a couple of slides. I do on the drive, on the link you send me. When I knew that I would have the opportunity to say some word, I thought about what could I ever say after all these outstanding presentation about all these great people that are working here in the buildingSMART Summit. So I just thought to try to say something easy, something from me, from my heart. And so basically, while we're waiting for the slides, just saying one thing that is in bocca al lupo. I guess nobody here that is not Italian can even imagine what this means. In bocca al lupo literally means in the mouth of wolf. And it's the way we use here in Italy to say good luck. It's quite strange, I know. And sometimes, and it's interesting because it's not really clear what should be the answer of this. Because some people say the wolf should die. Some others say life to the wolf. So it's ambiguous. And here in Rome we say life to wolf because here we have this legend that it says how the Roman Empire started. This about these two twins that was let's say abandoned by the mother and then rise from a wolf. So Italians, Roman says, yeah, good luck to the wolf because he made these two twins. Actually, the two twins, after a while, they start to fight and one killed the other one. But, you know, this is wolf life. But this is a story that sometimes I ask myself what it means. It's anyway, it's like the base of all the culture that is in heritage from Roman Empire. But if you go to see on our heritage, at least in Occident, on the west of the world, Abel and Cain is a very famous story from the Bible, and again, it's two brothers killing one to other. And here, this is the way maybe I go inside myself because I really love to study this stuff. And like we need to see that like a part of ourselves. So Cain in Hebrew, it's a word that means like purchased or acquisition, and in fact is you know, the first woman, Eva, after born this first son, says, okay, this is God that gave me something, or I purchased, this is my acquisition. So the name is Cain. And Cain is it's a man then is involved in a business that is agriculture. So it was very attached to the ground. He was really so somebody who wanted to purchase stuff, to conquer the space too. And then after a while, a second child born, and the name was Abel. Abel in Hebrew, it means something like stiff, something like air, or something that is very not possible to touch. And so he was a shepherd, so he was hanging around, not really in a specific direction. And also his life was very brief and very temporarily, because Cain killed Abel. So that is like our deep instinct in human is to like sacrifice our spirituality, our temporary enjoyment to something that is more steady, more present, more real, say like this. And so Cain was the one living, and the next generation then start to become, and so they start to Babel Tower, and you know how it ends up. God cursed all the humanity, and there is misunderstanding that we are still trying to solve. So that's the story. But why I'm talking about this story? Because talking about Abel, so this part of us that is the one that we usually sacrifice because we want to get more stuff, we want to build more, and so on. We go a few thousand years later of that story, and we go to King Solomon, that in the Bible is like the man who was all. So he had so many gold, big palace, so many horses that now will be cars, so many women. So he was the more Cain of everyone. But he was also blessed by wisdom, so he was also the most. And the interesting thing is that at the end of his life, he wrote a book, and this very famous sentence that say is Avel, Avelim, Akul, Avel. It's would say like Abel of Abel, everything is Abel. That most of the time is translated like vanity of vanity, everything is vanity, but actually not the real meaning of this. That, as I said, is like more steam of steams, everything is steam, so everything is going to destroy in the end. So what we really want to get to conquer, to build, in the end will anyway destroy. What is left is just the steam, just maybe some remember of that. And again, why? Well, where am I going? Close this discussion. I think that this is what we are doing here, because we are working on the building industry. That is probably the seed of our of our Cain. Sorry, that we want to build, we want to create something. But what really is our added value is something that we can't touch. It's friendship. It's be connected. It's there is want to reach some really powerful idea to again be able to speak each other and to solve so many problems, and finally to get to a more sustainable construction industry. So that's my feeling. It's very beautiful because we are kind of taking back the Bible story, and then before Abel and Cain there was the Garden of Eden. So maybe we will go there in a greener and sustainable world. So good luck for all this wonderful project you are doing. Thank you for being here.
That is a difficult act to follow. I'm not going to talk about the International Friendship Club today. You know why? I see it. This is for us. Dream come true. This summit, all of us, actually all of you, I just watch, all of you, something together, something wonderful together. People from, think about this, all over the world. People coming together in friendship and trust. You work selflessly. That's a nice word. Selflessly. You don't do it for yourself. You do it for each other. You do it for the future, for your children, for the world. That's a really wonderful thing. It's for me. A few of us are still around that started Building Smart. We had a little idea. Now it's a big idea. Change the world, change how we build and how we operate things. Be kinder to the world. This is a really big thing. It's a big dream, and you're all in this dream. So Building Smart is, yes, it's IFCs and it's BSDD and it's you, it's us doing this. I could not be more proud of what I see. Imagine this, people from all over the world coming together and working as friends to do something wonderful. It's, for me, it's a dream come true. I know, yeah. We need to have a Building Smart for microphones. So just, I also want to say one more thing. Almost everybody in this room doesn't do this for pay or for money. You do it because you want to make a difference. Almost everybody. Some of you get some pay for this. We have a small staff, now led by a new leader, Clive. Very few people coordinating the work of all people in this room and your colleagues and friends in your own countries and your own rooms and your own chapters. Thousands of people coordinated by just a few to do something wonderful. I think that is awesome. So my dreams are coming true. I hope you feel what I feel in my heart. Thank you. Thank you.
Right. So first of all, I've learned from standing at the back, this thing doesn't work. So every time you can't hear me, can someone at the back please wave, and I'll move till it works. Gosh, where to start? I think I've got to compress a 10-minute talk into 23 minutes because you're not allowed to leave until 1 o'clock. So I will do my best. Look, I've got two things to do. I've got to close this, but before I do that, there's one award that I need to give out, and it's a fellowship award. Each year we nominate, and well, I say we, the existing community of peers in this, of fellows within this organization nominates people to become peers, to become one of those fellows. And it's a very, very big deal because, as Patrick just said, there is a community here of people who dedicate a huge amount of time, energy, intellect, experience to make this program move forwards. But within that community, there are people who do that on a sustained basis over several years with long-lasting impact. And that's what you need to become a fellow and get one of these gold pins. So if I can ask Karen Anderson, please, to come up here. So Karen, we were not able to. Sorry. So, thank you. I noticed, but thank you. Keep doing that. So, right. Okay. Any better? occasionally, sometimes. All right, we'll keep going. So Karen doesn't get off so likely it's just to stand here and have a photo taken. I'll ask her if she wants to say anything in a moment. But Karen has made a huge impact over many years. She's been a board member of BSI. She's been on the standards committee. She was the project leader for essentially, IFC 4.3 and the extensions that are going to be such an important part of this community going forwards. She comes from Traffic Burkat, so she represents that asset owner community, which is so important to us, and brings that project management philosophy as well, which is important. So, an enormous contribution over many, many years, and congratulations, Karen. So I will get my colleague here to hand this over to you and then ask if you want to say any words, but congratulations.
I'll wait. We'll come with. All right, so how long did I? 10 minutes now. This is quite embarrassing. I'm used to talking in front of the buildingSMART, and I've been having some keynotes through the years, and I'm every time very, very honored to be able to represent this industry that has got such a long way to go into this new era of digitalization. The digital transformation for us is going to make a lot of impact. So I thank you, buildingSMART, for acknowledging my organization's really hard work. We were the second biggest contributor. I don't know if you saw that because it was a bit fuzzy and small letters because the contributors are so many, but we were the second largest. So we have together, I think, with so many in this room, achieved something really good, and I'm so looking forward to the implementation. It is painfully slow, but we are getting there step by step. So thank you, buildingSMART, for giving me the opportunity of being here. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. The home straight now. So just some very, very last thoughts from me. And I'll start off with the thank you. And, we've heard applause already today. So just to remind people, these events do not happen by accident. There is an enormous effort over months, if not years, to get these events right. Aidan's off next week, sorting out the event this time next year. It's that long in the planning. So, again, I'll ask just please, the sponsors, the facility and the people in this facility, IBIMI, the BSI team, the speakers, and actually all of you for contributing. So thank you so much for making this what it's been this week. So last thoughts. A few things strike me. This is the first one of these conferences that I've had the pleasure of sitting through, and it's very different from anything I've experienced before. And I've been to lots of international groups, lots of international conferences in the past. This is different. And first word I wrote down was trust. It's really impressive to get such a diverse community of people to come together and exhibit this level of trust. It feels like a safe space where people can bring those diverse experiences to bear. And that doesn't happen naturally. That takes a huge amount of time and effort to create, and you can lose it in a heartbeat. So, I'm hugely impressed with what I've seen from all of you in terms of creating that safe space to share these experiences, and the energy that comes from that as well, because actually there's been great energy in this room, in all of the rooms. And, I would encourage you perhaps to try and do that as you leave, because, you walk out of these events with grand ambitions to change the world, and it can evaporate like Lorenzo's smoke and steam, if we're not careful. So, what, I just put things in my calendar, and every month they come up to remind me of that feeling and what I committed to doing on the back of these. So whatever works for you, but please, keep that momentum going. Another word I wrote down was outcomes. And there's some great phrases this week, and I can't remember who they're all from, so I'm just going to steal them and pretend I came up with them, but I think you probably know the truth. A standard is only as good as the number of people who use it. Absolutely. You know, this is about the users. It's about intelligence and not data. You know, that's another pointer towards what we're trying to achieve here. I'm wary of this one because Leon will probably correct me, but someone said yesterday, you know, IFC is the vehicle, BSDD is the passenger. That may or may not be technically right, but it's a lovely image because it's about actually what we're doing with the tools and the standards we're creating. So, you know, please think about the outcomes. It's profitability, it's sustainability. And if what we're doing isn't getting us to one of those places, directly or indirectly, we should be questioned. But if it is, we're changing the world, and that's a pretty powerful mission. I wrote down convergence. Actually, you could walk out of here thinking it's about divergence, because we're expanding into different domains. We are working with other organizations, you know, ICIS, GIS groups, etc. Actually, we're working with product manufacturers, component manufacturers more and more. So we need to find a way of working with these other communities and expanding into different domains, but doing so on a converging path. We don't want to replicate what others are doing. We need to find a way to work with others and bring us together to a single point in the future. And we need to simplify things, because otherwise this is going to get really, really complicated over the next few years. I had a light bulb moment yesterday, and I think it was Mike from Ashto who triggered this. And you look across the 30 countries that we have here, and every country looks different in terms of its adoption, the maturity of the BIM programs. But actually, if you just map that growth path, the capability growth path out in each country, and juggle the timeframes until they all match up, I think it suddenly falls into focus that you actually have exactly the same growth path in 30 countries. You have the same growth path in countless organizations around the world. So I think we're missing a trick as a community in bottling that, capturing, you know, what is that maturity growth path? How do we help organizations, countries move up that path, learning lessons, avoiding missteps, and actually finding it easier and faster to grow up that path? So there's work for us to do, I think, in terms of adoption cycles. And that brings me on to the people. You know, it's about people. We're a technology group, but we're in a people business. And everything that we do has to bear in mind the people who will use this, who will get the benefits from it. That's where Celine's work is so important. We need to put more and more focus, more effort into the certification programs and the people side of it. So, you know, again, an area that we need to do more on. Last point, I think, then, the future. You know, where do we go from here? Hopefully on day one, you've got my message that we work in time horizons. We've got using what we do today. You know, we use what we have today. That's really important. We improve what we have today. That's really important as well. I see, you know, 4.3 is a good example of that. Data dictionary is that improvement. And we design the future as well, which is where the digital twins, IC5, etc., come in. So all of you are working at least one of those. Several of you work in multiple ones of those. And that's brilliant. And I just encourage you to do one thing as you go forwards out of this room, which is remember the why. You know, why are you working in each of those? What's the outcome? You know, people business, people are motivated by the why, not the what. So if we think about the why as we go down those paths, we tie it back to the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. This is a really powerful group that's going to achieve some absolutely incredible things. So with that, I will shut up. Thank you all so much for a brilliant week. Safe travels. I look forward to seeing you in Norway. Good luck to the Norwegians for beating this one, but we'll see what happens. Thank you.